Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Sean McGinnis podcast. Hope you are all well. Now, today we are going to talk about something a bit more close to home for me, and it is how I coach my busy executive clients. Whether it's face-to-face or online, when I talk about this, you can obviously intertwine busy, parent, whatever it is, someone that's time poor. There may be some examples that are slightly different because a lot of the time busy executives are generally time poor but cash rich, so they can outsource and delegate a few more things that not everyone, I understand, can do, which is no problem, but there's a lot of intertwining tips and information that you can gain and apply to your own lifestyle. The reason I talk about this is because a lot of the information you'll see given out on social media online is given by people who are not in this situation and probably don't understand these type of clientele. They're preaching, okay, prep your meals every Sunday. Well, if Saturday and Sunday is the only day off for you to catch up on work or spend time with your family, there's going to be a lot of the time it's not viable. And you're getting information from someone who only has themselves to worry about, may, if it's your favorite Fitspo person, may just work on social media, on the laptop at home. And then their body is their business, so they have to, they're getting paid basically to look good. Whereas people I deal with, unfortunately, aren't getting paid to look good. If they were, they wouldn't make much money. When you were joking, my clients will love that one. And yes, so a lot of the information that you get is not applicable to your own lifestyle. So we look at fat loss, how to make it more applicable, taking into account that time is an issue, and there's lots of different ways. We're actually going to talk about 10 things you can do. Whether you're a PT as well, that service these type of clientele. I know early on in my career, as I'm saying the stuff where trainers are telling their clients to prep their food, I fell into that same trap because that was the only information out there. So if you were a PT listening, this is definitely applicable to your own business and how you coach people to make it easier for them to reach their goals. And then more importantly, a lot of the tips and strategies, we call them, they can use their own after. So the first thing will be, we'll talk about nutrition. And it's looking at how someone will set up the day. If generally I think of an executive I deal with, they're going to have lots of business meetings on. Well, before the COVID, they were flying more. So, but still now, more business meetings on. Stuff they have to go to, networking, and it's not a case that, okay, bring your own meal of chicken and broccoli. It's definitely not a case of that. There's probably going to be some drinks in there that, again, I know in some cultures where it's kind of rude where if you're saying no to drinking, seal deals and stuff like that. So this is generally a part of that lifestyle, which is fine, but we need to look at that and say, okay, if that person's day is set up, let's work a plan around that. So that will mean an intermittent type of approach, which basically means let's just save your calories for when you're going to have them. Whether it's not business meetings and maybe meals with your family. Again, if we're not trying to disrupt that and say, okay, you have to eat chicken and broccoli while your family eats a different meal. We're going to try to accommodate that and kill two birds with one stone. Now, intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast and saving our calories for later in the day. For some people, there's a few prerequisites to this, and there's some people, they may not be in a proper health status to actual fast. And the reason is, if someone's overweight, their body's not really good at utilizing stored energy, breaking it down and keeping the blood sugar stable and stuff to be able to use for energy. If someone's overweight, they have poor blood sugar stabilization, so when they skip meals, they're going to get a blood sugar crash, and then their cravings are going to go through the roof, and from more kind of quote unquote highly processed carbohydrate based foods. So I've had people, when I've tried this before, skip breakfast, try to save the majority of calories for the day. But again, if they fall into this trap, and then they end up just binging out by lunch, so that doesn't work. So you have to play around with it. If you trying to save calories for the evening meal or later in the day, and you've tried skipping breakfast and maybe your energy's not that good, again, all these things tie into how well your body's function naturally, physiologically. So if you're not in that shape, you may need to have something for breakfast, albeit just light. So it could be like a protein shake, it could be some fruit. Most people are going to assume they're going to have caffeine for breakfast anyway. The reason this can work is because caffeine's obviously a little appetite suppressant, because it's a stimulant. Combine that with someone starting the day, cortisol is naturally high, so that suppresses people's appetite anyway a little bit. And then when they get into the day, they're going to be a bit stressed, they're going to be running around. So naturally, that we can use that in our favor as an appetite suppressant to be able to curb that hunger and then save more calories later in the day. So yes, within that you can use that type of approach, but you may test out, does it work for you? Does your energy go? Does your cravings go too high? Okay, then you may need to put something light in there for breakfast. Whereas if it doesn't, then you're happy just having a coffee for breakfast, and you're fine that up until lunch. Perfect. Another thing you need to take into account, which we will touch on later, is if you try just to have a coffee over breakfast and try to use this approach, you have to make sure your environment's set up as well. I've tried this approach before with clients, but then they may work right across from like a cafe that sells delicious pastries, and again, if they let themselves get too hungry, they're more likely to binge out and then eat these foods when they get too hungry. So play around with that, but the idea is to save the majority of calories for later in the day. With that, again, depending on someone's calorie intake in general, I'm going to talk about how to track and not track and still lose weight later as well, because I know not everyone will have the time to track. That's not an excuse, that's a reality situation. That will kind of tie back into whether you have a lighter lunch, or you may just divide those calories into 2 meals. But yes, without going too specific, because obviously I'm not in front of the right person, that's an approach that will apply to the majority of people. Now, on that as well, when I say stack the food later, the most optimal thing I can do is to suit the person's lifestyle. If I look at the most scientifically optimal thing someone can do, it's to probably eat when it's light out and then stop eating when it's dark out. So I know if I could control that someone's lifestyle and control when they eat, I'm probably going to tell them to stop eating 2 to 3 hours before bed, because I know if they eat too late, they're not going to store fat or anything, but it's going to affect the sleep. And then if we think of it like an engine, if you're putting fuel into the engine, your body's still working, so it's food late at night, it can kind of wake your body up and prevent you from sleeping in the same way. And then we do know like breakfast can be helpful to your circadian rhythm as well, so it ties back into that. So from a scientific optimal level, if I had someone and control when they eat and they didn't have to work, I'll probably use like 3 meals. They'll probably eat breakfast the majority of the time, and they'll probably stop eating too late. But the most optimal thing, if I'm dealing with a person, is to go off the lifestyle and then construct the eating plan around them, because I know if that person loses weight, all the health markers are going to improve, so it's naturally going to make them healthier, versus me trying to put a square peg into a round hole. You're trying to force something where it's not going to work, which is going to increase the likelihood it's going to fail. So the most optimal thing is to fit the plan around your own lifestyle, forget what scientifically optimal is, because unfortunately that's just not the situation we're dealing with. You have to deal with the hands, deal with the what we're dealt with, the hand we're dealt, I'm trying to say. So the second thing, we will also look at, the second point, we'll look at delegating and systemizing your food plan. So within this, if I'm dealing with someone, they won't necessarily have, sometimes I'll ask them, I'll say, look, these are the ways we can go down the route of nutrition. Of course, you can track your calories. Of course, you can do this. But if I'm dealing with a really time-poor person, which is cash rich, I'll give them a service where they don't have to think about it. So, they're delegating the nutrition to me. If they're going out on night, I'll ask them where they're going. I'll look at the menu, and then I can tell them what to order, and then I can set up their food plan the rest of the day, going off the amount of calories. But that's me doing the calculations. I'm not expecting someone who's trying to make all these decisions to track their calories and do those. They're going to delegate that to me. The same goes where if I'm dealing with someone, I can do like a nutritional audit of the area where they live, or where they work and live, but where they work especially, and I'll ask them, okay, what cafes around you go to? I'll Google it, whatever, and they can let me know their favorite ones, and then I can pick off 2 to 3 different options that they'll have from their breakfast spot, their lunch spot. And again, dinner will obviously change. If they're going out, I can look at where they're going. I can calculate the calories myself. If they're going to have a few drinks, I'm going to account for it and have dessert, and then I can work backwards through the whole day and tell them the best options to order when they go out to take that from them. But I understand not everyone has that luxury, so we can use the similar approach. So if you're going out, you may look at the menu ahead of time, or you may get like your PA to do that, and then you can look at high protein dish that is going to suit your calories well. Same with alcohol. Obviously, you can still drink, but there's better choices to make within those calories. Switch to more spirits and stuff rather than drinking beer, and that allows you to still kind of keep stay in the game calorie wise. If we look at systemizing your plan, we can look at delegation again, sorry. So the other points I have here, okay, you may not have someone like me to do that for you, but what you can do, if someone's time poor, is you can get a food delivery service. So the food delivery service, you can tell them your requirements, you can tell them your calories. Again, if you're doing this on your own, body weight in pounds times 12. If you're relatively active, body weight in pounds times 10. If you're inactive, that's a simple place to start. Body weight times your body weight times 2 to get your protein intake. Okay, so you can give the food delivery service these requirements, and they can send you the right meals. Again, going back off the original point, is understand that you're probably going to have dinners out, but you could get, say, your breakfast, if you're going to have breakfast, and lunch, you could get that delegated already. Going off the original point again, some of the meal deliveries do like a real 100-200 calorie option that you could have for breakfast if you're really saving them, or if you're tying your calories to save them off for lunch, whatever needs be. So delegate it, take the thought process out of it. The same way in business, where people tell you do what you're best at, and then delegate the rest when you reach a point when time becomes an issue but money doesn't. The same way in your own situation, if time's an issue but money isn't, delegate the plan to a PT, or delegate the plan to a meal delivery service. And not one of these ones like Jenny Craig, and ones where you're getting the same amount of protein as a budgie each day. Actual like proper ones. Not to have any affiliate code, but my Muscle Chef are actually really good if you're here in Australia. If you look at systemizing your plan in regards to cafes, or in regards to where you eat, the same way. So if I'm looking at someone, I'll give them 2 to 3 options, because I'm trying to get the right amount of variability within their plan, so they don't get bored, but I'm also not giving them too much choice, because again, too much choice is just as bad as not enough, because you already have to make lots of decisions each day. You don't want the decision fatigue to be another thing you want to worry about. So you could do it, or someone else could do it. Look at the places you naturally eat. A lot of the places now, again, as I said, you can look at the calories online, or you can just do a quick calculation on MyFitnessPal if time allows, and then you could pick 2 to 3 options that you have for breakfast that you naturally rotate around, and then the same for lunch, and just go only to those places. Don't start going, I'm going to see what I have today, because again, you give yourself that decision, you're probably going to make a bad one, or you're going to increase the likelihood you're going to make a bad one. The same way I've actually found, currently in lockdown at the moment, I was like, you know what, I'm going to wear different clothes today. Instead of putting on the same Lululemon jacket, I have about 4 pairs of the same black Lululemon trousers. Have a few of these new hoodies I have, and I have shoes that I like. And I'll rotate around that on a daily basis. I have a black hat that I wear. Today I said, no, I'm going to wear something different. So I tried to pick out some clothes, and after about 15-20 minutes, I said, why am I standing here in front of the mirror trying to decide what I wear? I'm frying my brain. I need to save that for more important decisions. Again, not that I'm making big stock deals or anything, or trading Bitcoin here, but like even just doing this podcast, your creative brain needs to be on point. Otherwise, you're going to sound a bit stupid and it's not going to be good. So this again ties back in where you'll see people say where Barack Obama and Steve Jobs, where this is posting on Facebook, they'll have about 100 different of the same t-shirts, 100 t-shirts, all the same, and they'll wear the same stuff every day because they don't want that decision fatigue. The same with your food. This could be similar, tying back into that. So most people are going to have like a weekday eating pattern, and then they'll also have a weekend eating pattern. So for me, a weekday will be, I'll eat 3 meals. Generally on the weekend, I'll probably eat 2 bigger ones, because on your job, different eating times, blah blah blah. So that's just a reality situation. If you're a parent, you may be taking the kids to sports or whatever. That's going to dictate your schedule from there. So try to develop both of these things. Again, we're trying to systemize everything. McDonald's is a company run by teenagers because they systemize everything. I'm going to be pretty sure that the people I deal with, again, when I talk to them like this in terms of their own business, it makes sense. Yeah, okay, perfect. Systemize, delegate, blah, 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 blah. The same with a fat loss. We need to do the exact same. So your weekend, you need to systemize as best as possible. So this all ties back into creating the same routines, habits. That becomes automatic after a while. And then that allows you just to run on autopilot and focus on more conscious decisions that need to be made, or spending time with your family rather than trying to decide, what cafe am I going to go to today? So you may have a weekend cafe that you go to, you may have a weekend breakfast. Try to systemize them to be very similar, again based on your eating pattern. If you go out every Friday, Saturday night, again try to put the majority of calories into the second half of the day and save them for whatever event when it comes to that. Some people go, well, Sean, I want to cook. I like to cook. If you have the time, again, which these people don't, no problem. What I will say is don't be going shopping when you're hungry, because you're going to make the bad decision. So you may just use this example and systemize doing your groceries. You may have an online delivery where it orders all of the essentials that you need, and then you can top up on top of that if needs be. But again, as I said, don't go into the shops when you're hungry. You'll make a bad choice. It could be HelloFresh, which I've had other people deliver. Whatever you can do to stop the thought process of this and taking up more space in your brain. Because when blood glucose is low, when you're hungry, when you're tired, when you're stressed, these all tie into you making a bad decision. If you can build the foundations of these habits that allow you to carry on when shit hits the fan, perfect. I heard someone talk about how Japan is one of the most earthquake prone places in the world, but what I found out was it doesn't stop them from building. And the reason being is they build these really high-rise buildings with proper foundations to withstand the tectonic plates gliding, etc. If you do not have proper foundations within your plan, and again, it's like the iceberg analogy, you're not going to get very far. So these are foundation habits that we can systemize, we can delegate to take the thought process out of it. Again, if you're the person and you have all the time in the world, yes, you can track your calories and prep your food, and life's handy, and you do your steps and happy days, but that's not really how the majority of people are functioning, which is why they're struggling and a lot of the information is going astray. Okay, with a busy executive, I'm going to assume from my experience, stress is obviously high. So if we're looking at firstly a hunger and appetite, I know if someone's more stressed, the hunger and appetite is going to go through the roof. They're going to crave more processed foods. It's going to impact on their sleep. They're going to fall into a vicious cycle. The rate of stress and emotional eating is going to be higher, so it's going to impact nearly every facet of our plan, which then indirectly is going to impact our fat loss because they're going to overconsume on calories, and then they're not going to function properly, and it's so easy to fall into this trap. So we're always trying to put stress reducing activities into that person's life. In regards to training, you can only train as hard as you recover. So we see a lot of people stressed to the roof, which means the recovery's down, but they still try to put the foot in the pedal in the gym, and then that's going to lead to either them getting sick, or that might be the straw that broke the camel's back. So in terms of stress reduction, and this is going to tie into some other points, there's some simple ones I use with people, with just getting outside on the break, get some sunshine if time allows, device free. But this is going to tie in actually to the fourth point, and that is that is actually booking in these relaxing activities, because a lot of time poor people, generally, they are the people that they're not really the meditating type. So they're not the type that you see up on the beach and chilling out and feeling grateful and all that kind of stuff, because they have other stuff to think about. They have businesses to run, employees to manage, and families, and trying to be a good husband or wife or parent, etc., etc. So what I found with these people is they actually need to book in their relaxing activities. As counterintuitive as they sound, they need to have, say, a massage booked in that they're going to, or they're going to have, again, this is going to relate to how cash rich someone is, if they can afford that. They'll book a massage in, they might book a yoga session in, mobility, float tanks, saunas, and other type of stress reducing stuff that's come to fruition now. And yeah, you'll book that in the same as you would a workout, if you struggle to do that. Okay, if you don't, well then obviously you could do those things. You can go to a sauna, mobility, if you can't afford massage every week, just could be you go in, you do your foam rolling, etc., stretching, yoga, that kind of stuff definitely plays a part. And what you can do is you can look at your stress load. As your overall stress load goes up, then you need to counteract that with higher rates of stress reducing activities. So for every debit from your account, your health account, there needs to be a credit. You need to balance it out. Unless you always last that people can name all the stresses in their life, but they can't name the stuff that de-stress them. So you always need to have one for one. And that's the easy way of thinking of it. That also ties into how we can look at stress, and we can use technology, a lot of technology, to our advantage. I've talked before about heart rate variability. Well, that basically gives out a score of how stressed you are. So a high heart rate variability means your body's recovered and means you're in a good health status. Whereas a low heart rate variability means your stress is high. Okay, and we can use this. The best way to do it now, obviously, the Whoop band, they says do it, but I think it's a bit questionable how they do it, because you actually need to get your heart rate variability once a day, preferably in the morning. So Whoop, I think, try to take it throughout the night time, which don't think that works according to Joel Jameson, who's one of the pioneers of heart rate variability. So an easy way I'll do it, if someone's going to do that, is I'll get the Polar H10 strap around your chest in the morning, and that takes about a minute, and that will spit out a result from that. From there, that will again tell us how stressed we are if someone's not noticing it, so we can add in more stress reducing stuff, but also gives us a way of regulating our training. Another point we can add into that stress, we can only train as hard as we recover. So if the recovery is low, if our heart rate variability is low, our recovery is low, so then we need to regulate our training so we're not killing the person and we're not pushing them over the edge. Versus on the days the heart rate variability is high, they recovered, okay, they can go a little bit harder in the gym. And if I'm training someone multiple times a week and I might get them to do this, I can regulate on my session on that. So the days the heart rate variability is high, I can train them a bit harder. On the days it's low, that may just be like an easier day, or may have more restorative stuff in there in regards to mobility, in regards to stretching, foam rolling, low aerobic work. That is all a bit more restorative in nature to bring their heart rate variability back up, which is the plan, in combined with all those stress reducing activities. And then when they come back to the gym, okay, then we can train a bit harder. Always see people again trying to train hard, trying to train off like the demons of a hard day, which may work mentally, but it doesn't work physiologically, because you're just adding more stress onto your body. So where someone may feel better a little bit after the session where they've beasted themselves, it's not going to happen the day after that or the week after that. At some point you're going to tip yourself over the edge. And I always see it where people, executives, if they might be running in the park and they're not fit enough to be able to run at a low aerobic level, and so when they're running, their heart rate might be into the 170s, 180s, and they're pushing themselves, because again, they're pretty motivated people, so they're probably going to go hard, no doubt, but to their detriment. And again, how many times do we see the executive who's 40 or 50 who runs every day who had a heart attack? Because again, physiologically, they're still adding stress onto the plate, and that's the problem. So that's what we need to look at as well. We can regulate and we can use technology that way. And that is the Polar H10 strap. And you can use that for your sessions as well. If your heart rate variability is low, if you haven't recovered properly, you may work out whether it's with some weights or some low aerobic work, or a combination of mobility, stretching, all that kind of stuff, not letting your heart rate go over into the high lactate and higher levels. So keep it under 150, and you can use it that way as well, which is how I'll use that. Other ways of utilizing technology, which we've already discussed, we can look at obviously using a Fitbit or Apple Watch, which I have on here, and that could be a way of just keeping that person's activity up. So again, I've talked about steps, beneficial numerous times, but with this, what we can use it to get the person out, obviously get them device free if possible. Even better with that would be to some kind of nature, get them walking if there's a park around on the break. We're going to be burning calories, fresh air, we're going to be getting some vitamin D, so we're going to get lots of different ways to improve our health just by doing this. And obviously when we walk, if you had your lunch and you walk after, you're going to digest your food better. The list goes on. Stress reduction as well, walking. Yeah, the list is endless. So we can utilize technology to give it that way. Again, the Apple Watches are even getting better. So the way they kind of utilize the neuroscience component, where they're giving you all those lights are flashing, they're giving you rewards to reinforce all that activity as well. So And as a way, a variable, it's a variable that we need to hit. So under 8,000 generally is probably inactive. So I would give that as a minimum if you can. Okay, and we're going to talk about other ways of getting this up if that always doesn't allow. And again, if I'm talking to someone in business, like this is your KPI, it's one of your KPIs we're trying to hit, because that's going to have a knock-on effect on everything else. Other ways of utilizing technology, I've actually just bought my mum one, and two of my clients who struggle with drinking water. And again, I know I'm giving Apple more money, which they don't already need, but their Apple water bottle, which connects to your phone Bluetooth and then flashes every time you need to drink. You set yourself like a water goal. The reason people struggle with habits is because they don't have a prompt, they don't have a trigger. Where every habit needs a trigger. So if you're an emotional eater, your trigger is stress or some kind of emotional state. If you're trying to add a new habit in or improve it, you need a trigger, you need a prompt. I actually just continued on. We're in lockdown now, so it's a good time. Doing a half an hour Polish each day, trying to learn that. And one of the apps I use is just the what is it called? Sorry, Duolingo, and it sends me a reminder every day. It comes up, don't forget today. It emails me. That's the trigger I need to actually engage in the habit, and after a while become automatic. It's why if you're also trying to add a habit in, do it after an already existing habit stacking, because that previous habit finishing is the trigger for you adding the new one in, and that's the way you do it. Versus if you're trying to go, I'm going to do this habit at a certain time, well then you'll end up forgetting because there's no trigger to actually remind you to do that. So that's where all these other apps and stuff are definitely useful. As I said, that with the Apple water bottle, that was the trigger for her to drink, and now she's drinking more automatically. Habit wise, there's some good habit apps out there that will do the same thing, that will just make this a bit more conscious when we go about our day unconsciously. Like I said, with the steps, not everyone can get out on the break, so we can utilize a kind of a temptation bundling approach when you combine, well, it's not even temptation bundling, let's say habit bundling. You combine two habits. So if someone is time poor but cash rich, as I keep saying, they may be able to afford a treadmill in the house if they work from home. And then you may go, okay, I don't really have time to walk on my break, but I'm going to take this call and walk on a treadmill. Or like I said, you may just take one of your meetings to be a walk meeting, whether that's on the phone or whether it's in person, and you can combine that way. For some people, they may have stationary bikes or whatever in the house, and I can get them to burn calories that way. Just take the call on the bike, and you can kill two birds with one stone. I've known people, I think Phil Ernie put it up, where he was on the phone to some gas bills or energy company or phone bill or something like that, and he was on for half an hour, and he knew he was going to be on a long time, hopped on the bike and then just waited on hold. As a way you burn, you're always trying to be efficient with a time. And again, I don't need to tell you that, you already know, but these are some ideas that you can still find ways of improving your health and going about your normal day together. So yeah, it's maybe you might suggest that. I've had people successfully suggest that to the team. Let's do a meeting as a walk, or is it okay I turn my Zoom camera off and just walk while I listen to it? Whatever needs to be. There's some ideas when it comes to that. Obviously, tying into stress would be a sleep routine. If you're not sleeping, again, it's going to impact on everything else as well. It's going to increase your stress, but it's also in terms of fat. It's going to increase your energy. Not increase your energy. It's going to decrease your energy. It's going to increase your cravings for higher calorie food, and it's going to decrease your satiety signals. So it's going to have a knock-on effect. Even one night, I don't know if I had a bad sleep, I just start craving mad stuff, muffins the next day, pastries. So we can all attest to that. So that we need to look at creating a very good sleep routine. In general, busy executives are going to probably be working later. So if you can take the blue light from your screen, the app's called Flux. Some research into blue blockers late at night, or not late, in the evening. Try to create a dim environment even if you're still working. Dr. Andrew Heberman suggested lights down lower are better at night, because we naturally look up to light for that to be a signal whether it's daytime or nighttime. So if we combine a lot of these things together to create the dark environment, to allow us to secrete melatonin. But also when it comes to this, when someone's complaining about the sleep, we first need to look at what they're doing early in the day. And again, this is going to tie back in with the hacks, quotation mark hacks, point, where if you're struggling with sleep, the first thing you need to do is look what you're doing in the morning. And you need to get outside in the morning to give your body and brain the signals that that's the time. So then it's going to start to secrete your sleep hormones 10 to 12 hours later and set a proper circadian rhythm when it comes to that. Come back to that point. Other ways of sleep is obviously dark environment. May utilize some kind of magnesium at night. Don't think of to probably turn my opinion on melatonin. I think there's other stuff that you need to do. I don't think it's as effective as you staying asleep. There's going to be some people that snore when they sleep, which may be the reason either the partner's not getting sleep or them. That's going to tie into my other point when it comes to hacks, where we're going to look at mouth breathing. Again, you can see how everything just relates together. Generally, people that are stressed is going to relate to a stress point. The natural stress response will be to shallow breathe through our mouth. So kind of shoulders up and around our ears and shallow breaths into our mouth. It's a natural stress response. However, it's not equated or correlated with you actually being the healthiest version of yourself. In regards, the majority of the day, we should be breathing through our nose. We should be nasal breathing. And if you haven't gone and listened to the episode with Dr. Patrick McGowan, go and listen to that, where he explains the science of how it should be. So naturally, if you're listening to this, even if you're walking or you're sitting down, wherever you are, your tongue should be at the top of your mouth, right in that little gap there. That's what your tongue's for. Close your mouth. Keep your tongue at the top of the roof of your mouth, and you should be breathing through your nose all day. Only if you're exercising hard should we start to breathe through our mouth. But even in the low aerobic exercise, you should start to practice that, just nasal breathing. And Dr. Dean St. Mark even talked about high blood pressure. One of the biggest things he sees people why the blood pressure is high is they're dehydrated, and he related back to the mouth breathing and not breathing through the nose properly. And that relates to when we nasal breathe properly, it increases the nitric oxide, which then dilates the blood vessels, arteries and veins more, which allows blood flow through better and more efficient, rather than the vessels and veins are more constricted, so your blood pressure has to be higher to pump that blood through. Hope I didn't butcher that, but pretty sure that sounds. So yes, we should be nasal breathing the majority of the day. If you're snoring, Dr. Patrick McGowan has a lot of research on this. They can utilize some kind of mouth strips. Go and have a look at that. That in itself could be the reason where you stop snoring, and then improve your sleep, and that improves your stress, and that improves your cravings, and that improves your food plan, and then that allows you to lose weight. So it's all it all ties into each other as well. So go have a look at the mouth breathing episode and nasal breathing episode. There's even research now in terms of injuries. Is physios will be like, well, I can't really treat your injury when we mouth breathe, it's a stress response. So we're in a stress state. So your body's in a state of stress all day long simply by you mouth breathing. So So when we're nasal breathing, we're in that parasympathetic, we're in that rest and relaxation zone. Again, it's why if someone's stressed, it's like a chicken and egg scenario, that you can use your breathing to calm down your body, or your breathing will put you in a stress response, vice versa. So physios might say, well, look, there's no point in me treating your injury if you're going to continue to mouth breathe, because in essence you are in a stress state, which is not conducive with you being in a recovery state. So if I'm trying to fix your injury, I need you to be in a parasympathetic zone, so your body's not inflammatory, and that's going to actually allow us to cure your injury. So it's a deep hole, but just take my word for it. Go listen to that episode, both Dean St. Mart and the Patrick McKeown episode about nasal breathing. But yes, and lost my train of thought there. I think I was talking about sleep, wasn't I? I went on a tangent. So yes, improve your sleep that way. That's going to tie into everything else. Yeah, that's going to be more than supplements. The lifestyle stuff are going to be more than supplements. Again, sometimes it gets a bit awkward where I know people need to have a drink or two at night. But the problem with that is sometimes that can interrupt their REM sleep too late. So again, just know the trade-off and try to optimize everything else. Same thing for smoking weed, although that makes people tired, that doesn't allow them to get into REM sleep and actually be restorative sleep. Sleeping tablets, stop taking sleeping tablets if you're taking them. They're the dumbest thing ever. It's like someone hits you over the head with a hammer. There's no restoration in that as well. So you're going to feel like shit the next day. So yeah, that's the dumbest thing ever. In the majority of cases, again, there may be some outliers, but for the people I see people taking them, they should not be. They should be focusing on actually lifestyle factors. Just as I see here, I've made note when I talked about the HRV as a quantitative measure for your stress. You can also use other stuff like your motivation for life or training, your energy. Obviously, you can use your libido even. Motivation's probably is a bigger one. I'm sure there's other ones I can't remember at the moment, but there's some quantitative data that you can use if you don't have a HRV to see how stress response is. Or other ones are like bad short-term memory, which is ironic because I can't remember the rest of them. But go list, just go search that symptoms of higher stress, and you can use those as your quantitative data, as well as maybe the HRV if needs be, but you probably don't need to. But if you weren't doing the HRV, you can use that. You can also use your resting heart rate. So if your resting heart rate's higher, generally it's a sign that you're a bit overstressed or under-recovered. So both are the same thing as well. Okay, what do we not talk about? Okay, second last thing, relating to the other quote-unquote hacks. And this all stuff will improve your energy, which in turn will improve your stress reduction, will improve your sleep, etc., etc. So one thing which I've actually added in is cold showers in the morning. Now the reason being is not I'm trying to copy Wim Hof, or I'm not trying to be crazy or I don't even like the cold, but the benefits of this, first the benefit in the morning, naturally we want our cortisol, which is stress hormone, we want that to elevate. So we want that to peak in the morning. That's the thing that wakes you up in the morning. By the evening, we want that to go down. So when cortisol is low, it's going to enable melatonin to increase and stimulate. Obviously, in the morning, cortisol is high, so melatonin is low because we don't want to be asleep in the morning. If you are overstressed and you probably run yourself into the ground, you may have reverse cortisol awakening response, where your cortisol is not spiking in the morning, and so you're dead in the morning, you're dead to the world, and then it becomes you come awake at night, so you're wired but tired at night, and that's when you need to go back and focus on all the stuff we talked about. So the first way to get, you can utilize cold shower. You might be at the stage that you might just utilize some cold water at the end of your shower. The reason this hikes up your stress hormones, so it releases them naturally, which is going to wake you the hell up. Swear I'm like Roadrunner, I have to do that in the morning. and I'm just on. I literally, after I jump on that cold shower, I leave my house in 10-15 minutes just on one. Versus if I didn't do it, I'll be slugging around for ages, and it would take me ages to get ready. Again, you can utilize that with some caffeine. For those trying to save on calories, don't be going to Starbucks. Watch all the milk in your caffeine. Those calories add up. So if you're trying to save, obviously either long blacks or utilize almond milk, or just not that much. But yeah, that could easily use up a few hundred calories if someone drinks a few coffees a day. Sunlight, as I said, ideally within the first 20 minutes. Even if it's a cloudy day, there's still going to be sunlight exposure. So go out, expose yourself. It can't come through the window. You need to go outside to utilize that. And the other point I have, which is one I haven't talked about before, it relates to the nasal breathing, is learn how to breathe. Because there may be situations where you may be under stress, you may be a bit more prone to anxiety, or you may, I don't know, someone may have said something that pissed you off and you want to kill them, where you can learn to bring yourself back down quicker. Use different forms of breathing. Basically, focusing on your breathing is a natural stress reducing activity in itself. So if you go, and this will be credited to David Sullivan, so go look at him, he's an amazing physio. If you put your tongue at the top of your mouth, breathe through your nose, but breathe 4 seconds in, hold it for 4, and 4 seconds out slowly. Okay, but then the next step onto that will be to seeing if your diaphragm, which controls your rib cage and your lungs, is moving properly. Because if it's not, your breathing is going to be impacted. And again, go research this, but then he talks about if your rib cage and stuff isn't moving, diaphragm isn't moving properly, you're naturally going to mouth breathe and shallow breathe. So it's a vicious cycle as well. So he has a video on YouTube, go look at that. What's supposed to happen is your diaphragm sits in between your rib cage. So if you put your fingers right at the bottom bit of your rib cage in the middle, as you breathe in naturally, that should expand, and your rib cage should go out and then up. Okay, expand, and then as you exhale, okay, it's going to deflate. So go look at that video. But if you can learn to breathe properly, nasal breathe properly, that will allow you to bring yourself down through more stressful situations. And stress isn't bad, but we need to be, the majority of the time, if we can, be in that parasympathetic stress reduction state. Obviously, we want stress to be spiked because that's how we grow and that's how we evolve. But we need to get back down to normal levels. So go look at that, learn to breathe. That's not only going to improve, obviously, if you look at the quality of your whole life, it's going to oxygenate your body properly and energy-wise, and the list is endless. But again, you can learn to bring yourself down through stressful situations or after to hold it together. And just on that, people who are more aerobically fit are better suited to stressful situations. So another way why we should be focused on our fitness, because that's going to allow, if we think about heart's obviously a muscle, the more aerobically fit our whole body is to bring down that stress response after training, and then that's going to relate to how well you can perform at work. If you look at corporate athlete, you are an athlete. Ironically, sometimes if we look at athlete in every other type of the field, as the stakes go up and they earn more money and decisions are more costly, typical athlete, the field's going to get better. They're going to get psychologists, they're going to get coaches, they're going to get training, they're going to improve the recovery. Whereas if you look in the corporate world, as the person goes up the ladder, the nutrition gets worse, the sleep gets worse, the stress reduction gets worse, the training gets worse. So obviously then, if you're exposed to such high stress without the training, without your body physiologically ready for all that, well, you're going to crumble. And the last thing, what I'll do with the hacks, I normally talk about what to do when they're flying, but no one's flying at the moment, so that's waste, and it just reminds me how annoying it is that we can't fly anywhere. But the last one, which you get a blood test, any hormonal testing you need to prior, I will, if I get someone in, I will firstly refer out. I'll get all that stuff covered, all the blood markers checked, the hormonal markers checked, and then anything optimized, what needs be, nutritionally and vitamins, minerals, etc. You can refer out to a nutritionist, functional doctor, someone qualified in that realm to optimize everything, which again will relate back into the fat loss, but obviously then your quality of life, your energy, and all the good stuff. So sorry I rambled on. If I did, I can't tell the time on this, so I don't know how long I go for, but that is some tips I hope that you can apply to your own lifestyle, or if you're PT, as I said, your clients. Yes, and there we go. If you enjoyed that, I would much appreciate if you rate and reviewed that on iTunes, because that's how we spread the good word with this, and let these people know how to improve the quality of life without having to prepare all their meals in Tupperware, to do it in a way where they can do that. Oh, the last point, sorry, what I just have written down here. I talked about if someone is going out at night for business meetings, etc. There's obviously going to be occasions where you're eating with your family, which is another reason why you backload your calories. What I would do then with coaching someone is I would ask them what I might recommend them how they could, by cooking the foods they do cook, if they do cook, I could recommend how to save a few calories within that, but I could also recommend some recipes if they tell me what foods they like that are calorie friendly, that they can cook for the whole family. So whether it's yourself, whether it's your partner, whether you have an au pair, a chef, I don't know, whatever you're home, you don't have to eat your own meal. You may find quote unquote healthier ways to save you calories to cook for the whole family. Because yes, if you do have a family, they're going to be watching you, how you eat. So, and obviously you don't want to be the outcast. You still want to enjoy these foods with that. Sorry, so that was back to what I was saying here. Please rate and review, and much appreciate. Obviously, I post these on YouTube as well. So if you want to see my ugly mug talking, go onto my YouTube channel, subscribe, and all that good stuff. But yes, we're currently in the second day of lockdown today. And over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to do a podcast every day. So I'm going to get some amazing guests on, and we're going to chew the fat, and we're going to talk all the good topics. So look out for that. Plenty of content lined up over the next few weeks. I hope you all have a good evening, morning, or night time, wherever you are in the world. And I will talk to you all in the next episode.